Ayubowan, Vanakkam, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste. My name is Servan Kumara and I am from Sri Lanka. I am the convener of National Fisheries Solidarity Movement and also co-committee member of Saape.
Mahmood and I am from Pakistan. I am a labor rights activist in Pakistan and I am a member of the Saape Core Committee.
Good morning everyone, Namaste. My name is Kusum Dunil. I am from Nepal working at Saape. Thank you.
The first one, we can see that this is an outcome of a regional alliance. Saape, by its name itself, is an alliance for South Asia. And in this report also we have had that truly like we have kept that alliance like ethos and values while preparing this report. It's an outcome of a consultative process as Netra has reported, and all the 7 South Asian countries, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, all the countries like they have participated. They have come with their country-wise reports, and we have used these country-wise reports as the feeder reports. Whereas the total regional report is not having any direct connection to the country reports. Total report, the regional report is relying on the country reports. Country reports are having their own standing as standalone reports. They have their own values, but at the same time the regional report contains, as Arjun Karki yesterday explained, there is no country report in the regional report because South Asia is South Asia and there is no country like specifically coming. We have given attention to the region in the regional report. And then we have had 3 rounds of consultative meetings, one in Bangalore, one in Hyderabad and one in Kathmandu. And based on this consultative meeting and processes, we have prepared this particular report. We have 5 authors for the regional report, of which 4 are here. And Indu Tuladar from Nepal is not here. But all the 5 authors, they are the people who have prepared the main chapters. And we have like largely benefited, hugely benefited from the advice of the 3 advisory board members, Shobha Raghuram, Babu Matthew, and Arjun Karki. I remember that like right in the beginning, like when we have had the consultative meetings, the Bangalore consultative meeting onwards, each of them took their time and gave special attention to this particular process and told that like what we want from this report, how it should be different, and what kind of inputs can be included in this kind of a report. And the best thing is that we have given full freedom to work on the report. There was no intervention, like as a researcher or as a person, academician working on this particular field, labor or social security related matters. The most important thing is that if we are getting the freedom to work, and that will give us lots of satisfaction. So working with Saape, I have always, like last round of Saape report also, I had an opportunity to work with Saape team. The most important thing is that Saape gave us the full freedom to work. But at the same time, in between as advisory board members or editorial board members, they have also given certain kind of insights that this is what we actually require. And that was very good for us to prepare the report. So I especially thank Professor Babu Matthew, Shobha Raghuram and Arjun Karki for their editorial advices. And it was very crucial for us to do. And we have the editorial board members, and this time like core editors, Sushovan, who has also prepared a very befitting forward, Netra and Praman. Praman also, like I have to highlight that Praman's participation in this report was not only from as a person from the Saape Secretariat. He was intellectually with us at every stage of preparation in terms of like the themes included, in terms of, so I really like enjoyed working with Praman. And we had on a day-to-day basis, like on each of the chapters, each of the paragraphs, we have been debating and discussing. So like it's a kind of a like big teamwork, and Praman was the most important person to bring this report on time. And I also know that there are many other SAPE team secretariat members like Reshma, Sudhir, Kusum. There are many like a new person I have met her today. Like there are many more SAPE secretariat members. We have to thank them. And now coming to this report's one speciality, I have to highlight that maybe for the first time SAPE poverty reports are having mainly we are having illustrations with the report. Right from the cover page till the end there are illustrations, and the cover page itself is an illustration which has a strong signal or a message towards social security related concerns. And one of the our other team members, Anjali, who is also happen to be, I am very fortunate to have Anjali kind of students working with me, like I was her teacher at post-graduation level. And Anjali is one of the co-authors of the report. She came with us as a chapter report writer, chapter writer along with Indu Tuladar. She was also our research associate throughout this process. She was with us. Plus, she has also prepared all the illustrations and the cover page. So that means, and today I saw that Saape, when we were collecting the details, we are also collecting the age group thing. And I found that I am unfortunately coming to the penultimate age group. That means I am slightly above 54. So I got into the 56 age group, and I was taking that thing. I thought that probably Anjali is one of the younger most authors of Saape poverty. Yeah, and I feel very happy that. And as usual, Mohan, me, and Agil, we were a team, and we had difference of opinion. We have similarities in approaches. We have had very, very cordial discussions throughout, and we always had the freedom to differ and then come together with a kind of a amiable solution. And that worked this time also. I am very happy that our team worked. And the next important thing is that when the report was ready, last time also we tried that thing, but last time probably we got some more time for that particular thing. We thought of sending this report to those people who are established in this particular area, social security, and those people who are also very well-known activists, preferably from various disciplines and various field of actions, and preferably from different parts of the world. And we got 5 blurbs from very well-known persons who are working in the area of social security and social development. For instance, Professor K.P. Kannan, who happens to be one of my teachers also at my PhD level. Professor Kannan is a member of the National Commission of Unorganized Sector Enterprises in India. And that commission is the commission that has prepared most of the important documents in the Indian context regarding social security. So we got Professor Kannan's, who is an economist, his review as well as his blurb. There is a review from Patrick Bond, who is a sociologist from South Africa, a well-known activist. We got one more activist and sociologist from South Africa, Professor Arisitas, who has been a very important person in social movement in South Africa, and Eric Tosain from Belgium, who is a historian as well as political scientist as well as an activist. He has also contributed, gone through the report, and we also got a review report from Hila Shamir, who is a professor at Tel Aviv University, Israel, and who is also a visiting professor at Harvard Law University. So that means people from different disciplines also, they provided their inputs as well as their comments. We were very happy with these things. Coming to the details, I am not taking a lot of time. I can tell that the report has a regional vision, and we have tried to minimize country-wise dominations. And normally it can, as it happens, many times it can happen that India vision will dominate over the other country things. We tried to minimize that thing, even if that domination still it is there, then you can always point out and at least whatever way we can minimize it, we can still do, because these are like, we have only very limited copies now for the release, so when the final copies are getting printed, if there are certain kind of minor changes that can be done, that can be intimated to us. And we have given attention on inequality and vulnerability, as Saape's reports are always having that focus. And we have given attention to informal sector and unorganized sector, and those laboring poor in informal sector and unorganized sector. So obviously, the social security of organized sector labor is not there in this report, because we believe that they are much more protected compared to those people who are from informal sector. There are multiple target groups which are going to get benefit from this report for sure, because the report has been prepared with a view that it should be equally acceptable and digestible for academicians, activists, policy planners, and all those people who are working on social security and other larger social development related issues. We have tried to include all the major things that are determining the social security scenario in South Asia, which includes economic crisis, social tensions, political instability, changing roles of state, environment, history, and many other dimensions. We have given special attention to include gender and women's perspectives, because from the last report onwards, we have been trying that thing, and this time also we have tried to give lots of attention on gender aspects, and the concerns of the downtrodden and marginalized were also a major aspect on which we have given attention. With this brief introduction, I am stopping, and I am sure that Mohan, Agil, Anjali, and preferably I have already requested Sushovan to conclude when we are concluding this particular session, and Sushovan, and if possible Praman can also give a few remarks, so that our collective wisdom, whatever I have forgotten, certain other people can supplement. And I am sure that this was in every aspect, this was a collective work, and we benefited quite a lot working together. And I am sure that this report will definitely give some insights to Saape and other partners of Saape to think about social security and social development in the South Asian context. Thank you.
Preparing this report. He has also talked about the uniqueness of the report. I'll take it forward. Why is it so important to have a report like this? There have been a lot of reports on poverty, human rights, human development, sustainable development, and so on and so forth. We also have global inequality report, gender gap report, food crisis report, and so on and so forth. Despite having so many reports, is it really necessary to have a report like Saape Poverty Report, focusing on inequality and vulnerability? I'll start with that. If you look at almost all reports, they have basically focused on manifestation of the crisis, documenting the crisis, documenting kind of insecurities, inequalities, and so on and so forth. Now, most of these reports were prepared by the experts. So experts have prepared those reports, whether you talk about human development report, for that matter, sustainable development report, or for that matter, global inequality report, and gender gap report, and so on and so forth. Now, this report is different because this is both academic and activists coming together and trying to produce something that can connect with the day-to-day experience of the common people. This is one. Secondly, this is also a report which is trying to look at the crisis from the systemic perspective. The crisis which has been happening is something related to the system as a whole. And the system, all of we know, is a global capitalist system or monopoly capitalist system. So this is one. And it has created structural roots of crisis. There are structural roots of crisis. It's not only about government doing and not doing certain things. There are structural roots of it. And the structures are, capitalism, patriarchy, caste system, religion becoming as one of the important structural roots and dynamics of crisis that we have been confronting. Therefore, this is different from many other reports that we say almost on everyday basis, where government have also collaborated. Very interesting, if you look at the sustainable development reports, who produces those reports? The government themselves produce those reports, and at points government themselves blame them that we have not been good enough to do this and that and so on and so forth, to console the people that look at, we are very sensitive, we know that we are not doing good, but we can do good and we have hope in hand and so on and so forth. Not telling the people that it is we who are creating the problems for you. Now, this Saape poverty report has been trying to tell all these dimensions, that there is a systemic crisis and there are structural roots of this. On my part, I have written a chapter, and Mohan will be also talking about the chapters that they have contributed. I have been a researcher on neoliberalism. I was taking neoliberalism as a research vantage point for my PhD, subsequent research, and guiding research scholars in the university and so on and so forth. So I'll focus a couple of things and I'll stop there. Now, what we have been witnessing today, an ecosystem that doesn't support, that doesn't help people to have a life with dignity and freedom. So this is a kind of crisis in the ecosystem in every walk of our life, everyday life. There's a crisis where I am not able, or community is not able, common people are not able to express themselves, to assert for their rights, to assert for their dignity and freedom. Very interestingly, the framework of neoliberalism is freedom. But ironically, we do not have the avenue for free thinking. So we are living in a world where freedom is celebrated, but your right to freedom, have free environment to speak, is being completely marginalized, completely eliminated. So celebration with ironies, celebration with contradictions is the crisis of the moment, and it has created a lot of challenges for the ecosystem. You come from the bottom. I come from a very remote place of India, Assam, and I have seen the people in day-to-day life, they are struggling, and they are not very sure about who is creating challenges for them. Now this ecosystem is in crisis, and that has been one of the attempts on the part of the authors, country authors, and also authors of the regional report, to focus on that dimension. And what is that ecosystem? That ecosystem encompasses everyone. Ecology is a very important component of it. Human beings are a very important component of it. Neoliberal development has an obsession with infrastructure and technology. Now, obsession with infrastructure and technology has displaced human and the ecology. And that has created the ecological crisis or ecosystem crisis that we have been trying to focus on. This has created enormous vulnerabilities. For example, the neoliberalism is taking market will determine. Whose market is this? I come from a village, we have community market, for example, villagers will produce, they'll go to the local market, those will go to the, we call Sariali, where four routes come together, they'll sit there, they'll sell their commodities and the community will buy. That creates an organic kind of environment where you are meeting the sellers and the customers or the buyers are meeting and converting it into an organic place where people will also be speaking about the community, hindrances of the children, hindrances in the education system, hindrances in the healthcare system. They'll also be having public meeting and there, and we'll also be taking resolution that they need a public school here, they need a public hospital there. Now, when I say market, is it that market which has been promoted? No, that is not the market. This is a monopoly market where the sellers will decide when they'll give concession, which season will be declared as a season of stock clearance and so on and so forth. The community is completely missing, and that is creating the vulnerabilities and enormous inequalities in the society. And this has also been collaborated by the state. Now, when it says state, it has to be a representative will of the people. That's not happening. Nalini will be in a very good position to elaborate how the sense of the people or will of the people is being appropriated, misappropriated, and misrepresented by the state. Under neoliberalism, therefore, the orthodoxies, authoritarianism, feudal components, using every bit of cultural, traditional, religious heritages and resources that we own, we generated, are being misappropriated for the profit of the monopoly, profit of the minority section of the society. Therefore, in this report, taking a lot of insights and wisdom from the people, common people, a lot of activist groups, we have tried to put it into a systematic manner so that we can build a kind of linkage between the systemic crisis and the structural roots of the crisis to that of the day-to-day experiences of vulnerabilities and inequalities of people and the communities in everyday walk of life. I think this will give sense to the people who are working at the grassroots and will help them to strengthen the mobilization that they have been undertaking. Therefore, this report, as I said, is different from many other reports, and I thank Saape for also personally giving me an opportunity to be part of this process. Thank you very much.
Easily the oldest member of the authors who are there. Oldest in age and oldest in the association with the poverty report, because I was associated with an earlier report as a country author, and after that the subsequent 3 reports as an editor of the reports themselves. And in that context, I just, today I was trying to pen some introspective thoughts on the process and some of my ideas about what might be my takeaways from the writing of the report itself. So I just try and so yeah, I start with a line from Kabir that we have used in the report, which says, "Hum hai bahuri akela." What does it mean? It means that though we are multitudes, each of us is alone in that multitude. And we felt that this uniquely defines what an informal sector worker is. Why does it do so? As distinct from the formal sector worker, the formal sector worker, in a sense, the way in which work is organized, the way in which employment relationships are organized, there is a more direct understanding that the formal sector worker has of work processes, of capital, and of the state. And therefore, there is a much easier engagement of the formal sector worker with organizing itself. as distinct from that, the informal sector worker does not have these markers in his or her employment. The community which used to define what the informal sector worker was is facing, as Akhil said, the might of the neoliberal state, which is trying to see that private capital penetrates into every realm of work. And in the process, we have seen, I come from India, we have seen directly in India, which is what would be there in the other countries also, how processes of the state have tried to see that what was left earlier for the informal sector, in terms of they having the benefit of not having to pay taxes, not being within the fiscal net. Now they're all being drawn into a fiscal net, where the indirect tax takes over the role of collecting for the state, and the indirect tax therefore also increases the cost to the common man of the staples that the common man or woman has to buy. And this is directly impacting what happens in terms of food security, in terms of the whole process of my social security in society itself. And this, in a sense, is the core of the report as to why is it that when we talk about social security, we focus upon the informal worker. In that context, organizing the informal worker has to become a political process. It cannot be just a process which is limited to, I'm talking of trade union organizing because I come from a trade union background. It cannot be limited to the workplace. It has to go beyond that. How does the right wing address this? The right wing addresses this by creating a misinformation that, as again in India what we say, achhe din hai, that there are good days, no problem, everything is being addressed. The whole system of hyper-nationalism which tries to incorporate all the informal sector into some sort of a hegemonic state discourse itself. And at the same time, when the right wing is confronted by workers, by the poor people talking about their daily issues, unemployment, price rise, etc., how do they address that? By saying that there is an other in society which is taking away all your benefits. The other can be the Tamils in Sri Lanka, it can be the Muslims and the Dalits in a country like India, and there are various other forms of the othering that takes place in society itself. How can we address this? What can there be? What is how do we develop a secular narrative in a sense to be able to counter this sort of a right-wing agenda? That is an issue also which, though not addressed directly in this report, has been an underlying factor in the way we have tried to produce the report itself. What it requires is that there has to be an articulation of a knowledge-based secular alternative building. We have to understand what are the real causes of inequality and impoverishment. What is the responsibility that state and capital bear in this? How do we need state and capital to address this? And therefore, again, the question of social security. Who is responsible for social security? What is it that capital is getting out as surplus from the labor of the poor? And therefore, how much is capital accountable to returning to the people? what are the clear and tangible demands that can be made both of the government and of capital on issues of wage, earnings, and security. In yesterday's meeting, Arjun raised the point of Karamat and talked about how Karamat stressed the importance of focusing on the wider issues and not just the country as such. This is very much relevant in today's context. When the economy is globalized, when the neoliberal ideology is global, and when the greatest threat to today's, in fact, survival itself, which is climate change, that is also global. Therefore, it is important that we, in our discussion, we are able to see the global picture much more directly. But at the same time, if we have to explain this global reality to the poor people, unless we are able to tell them what is it at the subaltern level, at the basic level of their own existence, what are the issues that need to be addressed, and we're able to articulate to them the problems that they face, the symptoms of the oppression that they are facing, why is it there, what can be done as a way forward to address these symptoms, we are not going to be able to talk to the poor. We would have lost the struggle to the right wing. It's very important that we are able to address what they face before we ask them to look at the wider picture. Finally, there is the whole issue of communication. We have a narrative, we have produced a narrative, how do we communicate it? I'm sure Anjali will talk much more about that. It's an issue that needs to be definitely addressed. Here I come back to my own association with the poverty report. Is there a way to catalyze what I would call, in a sense, a Gramscian discourse of what is the problem that faces the South Asian working class, and how is that problem going to be addressed at both the local level and the larger country level, and much larger the regional level? This has been a recurring theme in our discussion, our review of the regional reports that have been produced till now. I recall, I don't know, I think the venue was probably the same when we met maybe about 10 years ago at that poverty report, release of the poverty report, when I recall Sandun from Sri Lanka in his comments on the regional report mentioning, does this report actually speak to the activists in Sri Lanka? The question is relevant even today. How relevant is the report does it talk to activists? If it doesn't speak directly to activists, can something be done with even this report to make it more directly addressing activists? This is something that we have discussed within our own author group. We have not been able to do that in the past. Maybe we can still make a late start and try to see how this report can, it's a very valuable document, but can the value be further extended so that this can be something which can directly be taken to the activist community? I'll leave it there for discussions later on in the next 2 days, and thank you.